Imagine being buried alive, not in dirt, but in nothingness. No sight, no sound, no sensation of breath, and no feeling of your own limbs. For the people outside the door, an hour has passed. For you, trapped in the dark, it has been a year. This is SCP-2701.
Item number SCP-2701. Object Class Safe. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-2701 is contained on-site at the defunct Fairview State Penitentiary in Pennsylvania. The facility has been designated as Provisional Site 99.
The wing containing SCP-2701, specifically Cell 13 of C-Wing, is to be kept under 24-hour video surveillance. Access to the cell is strictly prohibited for all personnel, regardless of clearance level, except during authorized testing protocols. The door to SCP-2701 must remain open and the locking mechanism disabled when not in use for approved research.
Description: SCP-2701 is a standard prison cell, measuring approximately 3 by 4 meters. Externally, it appears identical to the other cells in Fairview's C-Wing. However, the anomaly manifests when a human being enters the cell, the door is closed, and the deadbolt is engaged from the outside.
Upon the engagement of the lock, the subject inside the cell instantaneously disappears. From the perspective of the subject, they are immediately plunged into a state of true solitude. This is a state of total sensory deprivation. Subjects report an absolute lack of light, sound, smell, and even tactile sensation.
Crucially, subjects do not feel the presence of their own bodies. They describe it as being a floating consciousness in an infinite, featureless void.
The secondary and most horrific effect of SCP-2701 is its temporal dilation. For every 1 hour of real time that passes outside the cell, the subject experiences an estimated duration of 1 year within the void.
Biological processes are completely suspended while a subject is affected by SCP-2701. They do not age, they do not require sustenance, and they do not require oxygen. However, their mental processes continue at a normal rate, leaving them alone with their thoughts for decades, centuries, or even millennia, depending on the duration of their sentence.
When the cell door is unlocked from the outside, the subject instantaneously reappears in the cell. Due to the extreme nature of the sensory deprivation and of vast spans of subjective time experienced, almost all subjects suffer from irreversible psychological trauma upon return.
SCP-2701 was brought to the Foundation's attention in 1970, following the closure of Fairview State Penitentiary. Rumors among the former inmates and guards regarding a hell cell that caused men to age mentally by decades in a single night prompted a Foundation investigation.
Recovery teams found the cell empty, but discovered a series of journals hidden beneath the floorboards of the warden's office. These journals belonged to Samuel Bernstein, a former warden of the facility who oversaw the prison from 1930 to 1955. The journals detail the creation of SCP-2701 as a bespoke form of punishment.
The following is an excerpt from Addendum 2701A, a recovered journal entry dated October 12, 1934. They talk about the electric chair as if it's a deterrent. They talk about life in prison as if it's justice, but they don't understand the nature of a man's crimes.
When that animal took my daughter, he didn't just take a life, he took the future. He took every smile, every word, and every breath she would have ever had. Death is too quick. It's an escape. I needed something that wouldn't let him escape.
I spent years searching, talking to men in the back alleys of New Orleans and the high mountains of Tibet. They told me of the void. They told me how to bring the void to a single room. It took 4 years of construction and more money than I'll ever see again. But Cell 13 is ready.
There is no God there. There is no light. There is only him and the memory of what he did. For as long as I decide to keep that door locked. Testing with D-Class personnel was initiated to determine the precise limits of the anomaly. In test log 2701-01, D7732 was placed in the cell for a duration of exactly 15 minutes of real time. Upon opening the door, D7732 was found in a catatonic state.
Subjective time elapsed for the subject was approximately 3 months. During debriefing 3 weeks later, D7732 was only able to repeat the phrase, "The silence has teeth," before refusing to speak again. In test log 2701-05, D9221 was placed in the cell for 2 hours of real time. This equates to 2 subjective years of total sensory deprivation. When the door was opened, D9221 collapsed and began screaming. The screaming continued for 6 hours until the subject's vocal cords were physically damaged. After several months of intensive therapy, D9221 provided a fragmented account of the experience. The subject described the first week as a period of intense panic and mental thrashing. By the end of the first month, the subject began to hallucinate vividly to compensate for the lack of stimuli.
By the end of the second year, D9221 claimed they had forgotten what it felt like to have a face, or what the concept of up or down meant. They described the return to reality, the sudden rush of air, the light, and the sound of the lock as a physical assault that felt like being burned alive.
The most disturbing case is documented in Incident Report 2701 Omega. During the initial recovery of the site, Foundation agents accidentally triggered the lock on Cell 13, while an agent, Marcus Thorne, was still inside. Due to a mechanical failure in the aging lock, the door could not be reopened for 6 hours.
For Agent Thorne, 6 years had passed in the void. When the door was finally breached, Agent Thorne did not scream or collapse. He stood in the center of the room, staring at the wall.
When agents approached him, he turned and spoke in a voice that was perfectly calm, yet entirely devoid of emotion. He said, "I have counted every prime number up to the trillions. I have memorized the texture of every thought I have ever had.
I have lived 10,000 lives in my head, and in every single one of them, I was begging for the nothingness to finally take me. Why did you bring me back to this noisy, crowded place?" Agent Thorne committed suicide 3 days later by repeatedly striking his head against the wall of his containment unit. His final note consisted of a single sentence: "The silence is the only thing that's real." The Foundation's research into the origins of SCP-2701 suggests that Warden Bernstein did not act alone.
Financial records indicate he made several large payments to a shell company known as the Empty Site.
Further investigation into this group is ongoing, as their involvement suggests that SCP-2701 may not be the only void cell in existence. There are rumors of similar cells in abandoned black site prisons across Eastern Europe and South America.
If these reports are true, there may be thousands of individuals currently suspended in states of true solitude, experiencing centuries of isolation while the world moves on without them.
The horror of SCP-2701 isn't just the isolation, it's the realization that the human mind is not designed to be alone with itself. Without the anchor of the physical world, the mind doesn't just wander, it breaks, it turns inward, and begins to consume itself.
Warden Bernstein's daughter's killer was the first person ever put into the cell. Records indicate that Bernstein left the man in there for 24 hours before the warden himself passed away from a heart attack. It wasn't until 3 days later that a new guard opened the door.
In real time, that man was in the cell for 4 days. In subjective time, he was in the void for 96 years.
When they found him, he wasn't a man anymore. He was a hollowed-out shell that didn't recognize the concept of a human being. He spent the rest of his life in a psychiatric ward, staring at nothing, his eyes never blinking, waiting for the silence to return. SCP-2701 serves as a grim reminder that there are fates far worse than death. It is the ultimate prison, a place where you are your own jailer and your own executioner. Subscribe for more files from the Foundation.